Life teaches us that not everything can be predicted, and sometimes events catch us completely off guard. Such moments have the power to change everything. That particular evening was one of those pivotal times. Eddie had left for a 3-day training program abroad, and while I was used to being alone in the house, this night felt different. I sat in the living room by myself, sipping wine while soft music played in the background. The faint glow of the candles flickered around me, offering a sense of companionship in the quiet. I wore a light nightgown that was comfortable, seeking relaxation and a moment of peace to find warmth in my solitude. Since Charlie passed away 8 years ago, evenings like these had become my sanctuary, a way to face the loneliness that had become a constant in my life. But that night, just as I settled into my thoughts, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I found Felipe standing there. For a moment, I froze, staring at him, trying to make sense of his unexpected presence. He stood before me, holding Eddie's folders and laptop bag. His dark jacket fit perfectly on his broad shoulders, and his slightly messy hair gave him an air of effortless charm that he always seemed to carry. Felipe had been Eddie's close friend for years, so his sudden appearance at my doorstep left me completely stunned. "Felipe, what are you doing here at this hour?" I asked, unable to hide the surprise in my voice. He gave me a polite smile. "Hi, Amy. Eddie and I have been working on a project together. I finished my part and didn't want to hold on to it any longer, so I thought I'd drop it off." I hesitated for a moment. "Of course, please come in. It's late and I wouldn't want you standing outside," I said, stepping aside to let him in. As I closed the door behind him, I suddenly became aware of my appearance, illuminated by the soft candlelight while wearing a nightgown. I tried to push the thought aside, though I noticed Felipe's gaze linger on me briefly before he looked away. When he entered the living room, Felipe took in the atmosphere, noticing the candles and the wine, and offered a faint smile. "It seems like I'm interrupting a private evening," he remarked with a hint of humor. I quickly responded, setting my wine glass on the table. "It's just a quiet night. Evenings like these have been my comfort since Charlie passed. But I'm glad you're here. I haven't had the chance to get to know you well." Felipe nodded, his smile softening. "We haven't spent much time together, have we? Even though I've known Eddie for years, I've always admired you. Your strength and the way you've supported him. It's remarkable." I gestured for him to sit, and as he settled on the couch, I went to the kitchen to fetch another wine glass. When I returned and poured him some wine, his calm and easygoing presence filled the room. It was something about Felipe. His quiet confidence and demeanor made his presence impossible to ignore. As we sipped wine and chatted casually, the atmosphere began to shift. There was a noticeable tension in the air, an unspoken feeling. Felipe's gaze stayed on me longer than usual, causing my cheeks to flush under his attention. It seemed like he wanted to say something, but the words remained unspoken between us. I felt emotions I hadn't experienced in a long time. His focus, the warmth in his eyes, stirred something deep within me, reminding me of how lonely I had been and how much I had yearned for this kind of connection. "Amy," he finally said, his voice gentle but firm. "Seeing you like this, alone, it doesn't sit right with me. You're an incredibly strong and remarkable woman, but I can sense your loneliness. It doesn't seem fair." His words struck me deeply, leaving me unsure of how to respond. I looked at him, my breath catching in my chest as the room seemed to shrink around us. That moment took me completely by surprise. The sincerity in Felipe's eyes left me speechless and motionless, even as my heart raced. All I could manage was a faint smile. "Felipe, I understand what you're saying," I finally said, my voice kind but steady. "But this is my choice. Sometimes loneliness feels like a form of protection." Felipe tilted his head slightly, his gaze thoughtful. "Perhaps," he said softly. "But solitude isn't always the best protection." The tension between us was palpable, filled with an unspoken attraction. Felipe's expression radiated warmth, and I knew I wasn't imagining it. The intensity of the moment both frightened and excited me. This story isn't over yet. And before it descends into chaos, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications for updates. Your support through comments and likes means the world to me. That night, I couldn't shake the memory of Felipe's warm gaze. Interacting with someone so genuine and sincere had a profound impact on me in ways I couldn't fully explain. But his words about loneliness resonated most deeply. How could someone like him, strong, accomplished, and kind, feel alone? At one point, I couldn't hold back. I leaned forward slightly and asked, Felipe, why are you alone? You're 37, tall, charming, and successful in your career. You're intelligent and mature. What woman would turn you down? As I spoke, I met his eyes, waiting for his response. Felipe's expression grew serious for a moment, though a faint smile played at the corners of his lips. He tilted his head slightly, hesitating as if choosing his words carefully. Amy, sometimes loneliness feels like a choice. But in the end, it's about not finding the right person, he said, his tone gentle and reflective. A man like me might have been too picky, or maybe the right person has always been close by, but it's hard to see. His words both surprised and unsettled me. I understood what he was implying, though I was too afraid to admit it to myself. A faint blush crept onto my cheeks, but I managed a small smile. I'm not sure, Felipe. Any woman who knows you would be foolish to let you go. A man like you shouldn't be alone. Felipe looked deeply into my eyes for what felt like an eternity. What about you, Amy? He asked suddenly. Why are you alone? I need to ask. You've been on your own for quite some time now. How easy has it been to make choices? I hesitated, caught off guard by his question. I'm 60 years old and I see loneliness as a kind of safe haven, I replied, my voice trembling slightly. After Charlie, I just couldn't imagine being that close to anyone again. But as I spoke, my words faltered when my eyes met his. His gaze was warm, filled with a magnetic pull I couldn't ignore. The tension between us was almost tangible. That evening with Felipe left me with countless unanswered questions swirling in my mind as I lay in bed. The weight of our past interactions pressed heavily on me. There was guilt, but also an undeniable thrill. Emotions I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. I have to admit, things changed after my conversation with Felipe. Days passed, but my thoughts kept drifting back to that night. His words, his stare, they lingered as if etched into my soul. No matter how hard I tried to push those feelings away, they only grew stronger each time I spoke to him. Our connection deepened as Eddie focused on his work. Felipe and I stayed in touch. Sometimes we'd grab coffee outside. Other times we'd sit in his car and talk for hours. We had long phone conversations that felt effortless, as if building a bond with him required no effort at all. Yet, with every meeting, a growing sensation stirred within me. This was more than friendship. It was something far deeper. Every time I heard Felipe's voice or saw his familiar smile, my heart raced. I had to admit, these feelings had gone beyond mere friendship. But what was hardest of all? Hiding it from Eddie, building a connection with my son's closest friend? Was it wrong? Or was life giving me a second chance? I remember our last meeting vividly. We sat side by side in his car, sipping coffee and talking. That day, we felt closer than ever before. Felipe's eyes lingered on my lips, and we were so near that the space between us almost disappeared. My breath caught, and my heart pounded uncontrollably. But we both pulled back. The magic of that moment hung in the air before we finally parted ways. After that night, I didn't hear from Felipe for a while. When his message finally came, it was more profound than I expected. It was just an address and a few words, but the meaning behind them was immense. Meet me here tonight at 8 o'clock. I'll be waiting. I want to show you something. Reading those lines, I felt a storm inside me. My hands shook and my heart raced so fast it was hard to breathe. Every word Felipe wrote carried weight and certainty. This was a turning point in our lives. The emotions I felt were both terrifying and thrilling. I knew exactly what he meant. This meeting wasn't going to be ordinary. Should I go? I asked myself, but deep down I already knew the answer. Preparing for that evening felt like transforming into a different person. I chose a sleek, form-fitting black dress, bold, with an off-the-shoulder design that ended just above my knees. It was elegant yet daring. As I looked in the mirror, I realized it had been a long time since I felt this attractive. I let my hair fall in loose waves over my shoulders and kept my makeup minimal, except for a bold crimson lipstick. I was sure Felipe's eyes would stay on me all night. "I'm doing this for him," I whispered, trying to calm the excitement bubbling inside me. But I knew it wasn't just for him. It was for me too. I wanted to feel desired, passionate, and special again. When I arrived at the location, Felipe was waiting in his car. Our eyes met, and something ignited within me. He sat there, his sleeves slightly rolled up, one hand resting casually on the steering wheel. His eyes held that familiar warmth and determination. He stepped out of the car and approached, opening the door for me. "Come here, Amy," he said softly, reaching out his hand. "I have something important to tell you tonight." As I took his hand, I noticed my fingers were trembling, but Felipe's reassuring touch felt strangely comforting. I got into the car, and we drove off in silence, just the two of us in the darkness. 30 minutes later, Felipe stopped the car. "We're here," he said, a hint of excitement in his voice. Before me was a breathtaking sight, a small house glowing with lights nestled between the mountains. The cool night air brushed against my face as Felipe gently guided me toward the house. When he opened the door, I was stunned by what I saw. The house was a masterpiece. High ceilings, moonlight streaming through large windows, warm wooden accents, and a glowing fireplace. It felt as if it had been designed just for me. The walls were adorned with earthy-toned artwork, and an elegant glass coffee table sat in the center, surrounded by refined furniture. A stylish dining table stood in the middle of the room, every detail exuding grace and purpose. "Did you design this?" I asked, my eyes brimming with emotion. Felipe smiled. "Yes, but it wasn't until now that I found someone as extraordinary as you to share it with." At that moment, I was speechless. Everywhere I looked, it felt like it was made for me. I let go of the inner conflict I'd carried for so long and allowed myself to be swept up in the magic of the moment. Felipe gestured to the couch in the living area, inviting me to sit. The fireplace crackled, creating an atmosphere straight out of a fairy tale. He returned with 2 glasses and a bottle of red wine. As he poured the wine, he leaned slightly toward me. "Amy, I brought you here because I can no longer hold back what I feel," he said, his voice clear and steady. My eyes stayed locked on his as I whispered, "Felipe." But he cut me off. "Let me say this. This house, this place tonight, it's all because I wanted to share it with you. You've captivated me like nothing else." My heart raced so fast I could barely breathe. Felipe's words broke down every wall I had built inside. "Amy," he continued, taking a sip of his wine, "seeing you alone, sensing your loneliness, it drew me closer every day. Now I know I can't avoid it anymore." At that moment, the tension between us reached its peak. Felipe's eyes revealed everything. There was no hiding now. As he leaned closer, his lips nearing mine, I stopped breathing. The moment had finally come. Just as our lips were about to meet, I pulled back slightly. "Felipe, before we go further, we need to be sure," I said, my voice trembling. But Felipe was firm. "I am sure, Amy, completely sure." I didn't know how the night would end, but one thing was clear. This evening was about to become one of the most important of my life. When Felipe's lips finally touched mine, everything changed in an instant. It was like an explosion, igniting a desire I hadn't felt in years. His kiss was deep and passionate, and in that moment, all I wanted was to be close to him. My hands wrapped around his neck as he pulled me closer, his grip on my waist strong and filled with longing. The intensity and passion were so overwhelming that nothing else mattered. "Amy," he murmured, his kisses trailing down my neck. "You're so beautiful. How did I not see how extraordinary you are?" His voice was deep, filled with both fire and tenderness, and his words only heightened the emotions already consuming me. "Felipe," I whispered, my breath shaky and my heart pounding, "you're incredibly attractive. Thank you for making me feel this way." My words trembled with raw honesty. I had completely given in to the excitement and passion of the moment. The wine glass tipped over, spilling red liquid across the table. But we didn't care. Time seemed to stop. It was just the two of us. The wine was nothing compared to the heat between us. As Felipe's hand slid my dress off my shoulders, I felt the warmth of his touch on my skin. My clothes fell slowly to the floor, leaving me completely exposed before him. I reached for his shirt, my fingers trembling as I undid each button. When I pulled it off and tossed it aside, I was struck by his broad shoulders and well-defined chest. "You're amazing," I murmured, my eyes fixed on his. His smile, both warm and seductive, completely disarmed me. Once we reached the bedroom, nothing could stop us. As I lay back on the bed, Felipe leaned over me, his gaze filled with a mix of desire and admiration. His fingers gently brushed my cheek before his lips met mine again. His kisses were passionate yet tender. As he moved closer, I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him near. Every touch, every movement drew me deeper into him. "Amy," he said softly, his voice barely a whisper. "Being with you. I can't explain it, but I know I'll remember this moment forever." Everything happened quickly after that. I could feel Felipe's warmth spreading through me, and something deep inside me awakened. A moan escaped me, louder than I expected as I gripped the sheets tightly. Felipe stopped speaking and focused entirely on his movements. We were both breathless. I lost count of how many times I trembled and tensed. It had been so long since I'd felt such intensity, such overwhelming emotion. I didn't hold back, my nails digging into Felipe's back as I let myself go, knowing we were alone in the mountain lodge. The experience left me completely exhausted, but it was perfect. Felipe lay beside me, his arm gently around my shoulders as we both tried to catch our breath. We stared at the ceiling, the silence between us speaking volumes about what we were feeling. He took a deep breath and turned to face me. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice soft but anxious. "What do we tell Eddie? Will this stay our secret forever?" I looked at him, his face a mix of fear and hope. I gently ran my fingers along his cheek, smiling faintly. "Tonight," I said with quiet resolve. "Let's just focus on tonight. I don't want to think about the future. I just want to be here with you." I reached for my phone and sent a message to Eddie. "I'm staying at a friend's place tonight. Don't worry about me." As I hit send, a wave of calm and excitement washed over me. That evening, we lost ourselves in everything we had shared. But the next morning brought uncertainty, with questions still unanswered.